Okay, guys, so we continue with our unit over the Industrial Revolution and what was happening at that time period. So our question today is, how did the United States define its role in the Americas? And notice I say plural, so we're talking about North and South America. So what happens here, let me go ahead and turn our screen to our next slide, is we want to start out by talking about relations with Great Britain. In 1817, there is an agreement between the two countries to limit the number of armed naval vessels that could occupy the Great Lakes, which is between the United States and Canada. Each country had to take apart or destroy the other armed ships on the Great Lakes that were no longer allowed. We also have a convention of 1818 that sets the northern boundary of the Louisiana Territory between the U.S. and Canada at the 49th parallel line, so the latitude line going east to west. This convention creates a secure border between the two countries. Each country agreed to maintain the border without armed forces. The Secretary of State at that time, John Quincy Adams, also negotiated the right of Americans to settle in Oregon country. So not the state yet, it is still country, up for grabs. We are also looking at relations with Spain at this point. Spain owned the colonies of East and West Florida, and in 1810, American settlers in West Florida rebelled against Spanish rule. The U.S. government then argued that West Florida was actually included in the Louisiana Purchase. In 1810 and in 1812, the U.S. took control of sections of West Florida. Now, what happens is that the territory claimed by the U.S. reaches west to the borders of Louisiana and Mississippi. Spain is not happy about this, but they don't take any action against the U.S. Meanwhile, Native Americans are living in Spanish East Florida, and they were sometimes raiding American settlements in the state of Georgia. We see General Andrew Jackson is ordered to stop the raids. Jackson believes that his order not only includes stopping the raids, but also pursuing the Native Americans into the Florida colonies. And in the spring of 1818, another general by the name of William McIntosh led Creek allies against the Seminole in Georgia. Meanwhile, Jackson followed fleeing Seminoles into Spanish West Florida. After pursuing the Seminoles, Jackson and his troops moved farther into West Florida. There they seized Spanish forts at Pensacola and San Marcos. Now, this had not been authorized, but nothing was done to stop or punish Jackson. And what Jackson's raids demonstrate are American military strength compared to that of Spain. Secretary of State Adams believed that the Spanish did not want war and wanted to settle this dispute. Adams was correct, and with that, we have created the Adams-Onis Treaty of 1819, where Spain cedes or gives up control of all the claims and ownership to East and West Florida. They also gave up claims to Oregon country in the Pacific Northwest, while the U.S. agreed to Spanish control of Texas. Now, Spain has problems because they're losing power elsewhere in its vast empire. A few things happening within that empire include, in 1810, a priest named Miguel Hidalgo led a rebellion in Mexico. He calls for racial equality and the redistribution of land. So the Spanish capture and execute him, but by 1821, Mexico is able to declare its independence. Simon Bolivar, also known as the Liberator, leads the independence movement that won freedom for the present-day countries of Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Bolivia, and Ecuador. And then lastly, we have Jose de San Martin successfully achieving independence for Chile and Peru. So by 1824, Spain has lost control of most of South America. So what's going to happen next? Well, in 1822, 4 European nations, France, Austria, Russia, and Prussia, discuss a plan to help Spain regain its American holdings. This possibility of increased European involvement in Americas troubles President Monroe. They believe that that is not good for the United States, and they are also concerned about Russia's intentions of possibly controlling land in the Northwest. So what is going to happen is something called the Monroe Doctrine, and that's where I will leave you right now as we get into that.